G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. And together with physical therapist Dr. Sean Joyce, welcome to Pivot the Path. G'day golfers and good morning, SJ.
Morning everybody, how we doing?
A little brisk this morning.
Yeah, first morning it felt refreshing and wow, it was nice. This is my kind of weather, I love fall.
This is my type of weather.
Yeah,
I'm totally on the
golf.
same page. Good for golf. I love the Northeast because the greens get firm, the crowds die down.
Yeah.
Best time to play golf in the Northeast.
Yeah, only issue are the leaves sometimes. You got any tricks with all your
hit it in the middle of the fairway.
Oh, okay.
It's a novel concept.
Fair enough.
Seriously, so up in the Northeast, for those listening globally and into around the US, the Northeast starts to lose its leaves in another month or so.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time.
About a month.
Yeah.
And when the leaves drop, finding a golf ball when the sun is coming on an angle is brilliant. So hit the middle of the fairway, face less than path.
All right. Easy enough.
Easy enough. Matt, big weekend for you because the parentals were in.
Yeah, and my parents came into the city to hang out for a bit, which was awesome.
Which was awesome.
This weekend and most of the holiday weekends, if you don't leave like a lot of New Yorkers do, it's quite nice.
Yeah, it's really quiet.
I mean, Times Square is going to be chaos as always, but the areas that aren't super touristy are amazing. So.
Did you go to Times Square? Did you take them to Times Square? No.
They've been here before, so we got to skip a lot of the big, touristy stuff.
And you guys have just moved into a beautiful apartment down in Tribeca on the water. They must have loved that.
Yeah, they were happy to see Statue of Liberty every morning.
Son and daughter-in-law living in a nice abode.
Yeah.
Rooftop? Did you get them up to the rooftop?
We got them up to the rooftop, of course. Yeah. Just hang out. You can see kind of everything from up there. So
nice. Awesome. So the rooftop at SJ's, ironically, we used to live in the same building, which is so
wasn't
bizarre.
Open, the rooftop,
the rooftop was open. Yeah,
okay,
it didn't have anything though.
Oh, okay.
Do they have seats up there now?
Yeah, they've got
so you're looking basically straight down Statue of Liberty and out towards the Atlantic Ocean. It's and then you can kind of see up the Hudson River.
They've opened the other side where you can see all north too, like where we are right now. We can see.
So what have they got? A bar or a?
They have a couple grills. There's like an indoor working space, some couches, that sort of stuff. So it's nice.
So you guys are never leaving.
Probably not.
Awesome. We had a good week. We played Rosie, myself, Valentina, and Colty played 9 holes at our local, which is just such a phenomenal track.
Yep.
Valentina's now playing field hockey, so she spins to outside in to like 10 o'clock at impact.
Okay.
So we got to get her into swing, but God, she hits the ball hard.
Yeah,
Holy moly.
send me a swing. She's got some speed
she
going.
got some speed.
And how's the little guy's swing coming?
All we do is routine.
Yeah.
So he smokes it dead straight, little draw, no joke.
That's awesome.
Just no technique yet. He's 6.
Just get him swinging.
Yeah. So I just get him to swing as hard as you can and hold his follow through.
Okay, awesome. And how about you?
Yeah, I played well. I carried 3 golf bags and giving him lessons.
Yeah, you're kind of on
I'm just
caddy dad duty.
Caddy dad duty.
Yeah, sure.
So that was good. And then I worked on the landy. I'm replacing all the exhaust pipes in the landy.
Right. You make some progress this weekend?
I did. So 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm underneath it, and Rosie bought me this really dorky miner's light. Thing's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm replacing exhaust on the landy.
We're use it for night golf too.
I could use it for night golf. News from the Fairways. Quite a big week.
Yeah. Tour Championship. So PGA Tour wraps up.
So we had the LPGA up at TPC Boston, and young South Korean Rai Hung Ron won the playoff. She shot 15 under, which is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Couple of Korean crew 1 and 2. DP Tour, we had the Belfry, which is always a staple. It's been on for decades. Nick Moller, young Danish.
Yeah, we've had a lot of international winners on DP World Tour this year. A bunch of
Yeah.
Scandinavian golfers
Scandinavians
coming
are
out
doing
winning.
well.
Yeah.
French and
Really
Scandinavian,
strong,
the Danes, the Swedes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Swedes have always been strong, but
Yep.
Danes and yeah, it's good to see. I love the DP Tour for that international
Mm-hmm.
flavour.
Yeah.
Live, nothing going on, very
Mm-hmm.
boring. Actually, just before we jump on PGA Tour,
Yeah.
I jumped down the rabbit hole on two things. I thought it's interesting that the PGA Tour finished today or yesterday.
Yeah.
And then the other tours. So I just made a little note here. The LPGA Tour have another like 7 rounds, and same with DP
7
Tour.
still to go. I didn't realize there was such a.
Why did PGA
timing
Tour finish so early? That's a
Good
interesting,
question.
good question. So I don't know why.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
And then the PGA Tour Championship.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So I went down the rabbit hole on their payment because they played for last week $100 million.
Yeah.
That's
like
insane.
The winner gets $25 million. So
So
you were trying to figure out how do they get that $25
is
million?
it deferred payment for your 401k type of thing, deferred until the age of 45, as long as they play 15 rounds a year? Or do they get a lump sum? And so I actually, I mean, I didn't spend a ton of time, but I did spend a good 40 minutes Googling this and read lots of articles. And typical with the PGA Tour, very cagey.
Inconclusive?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, not that we care. We're not on PGA Tour, but I think it is interesting that they are, again, getting back to why Norman, wanted to do Live is to provide some competition. Competition's healthy in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. There was an article a couple of years ago that said they received $17 million for the FedEx bonus.
Yep.
And a couple of years ago, they received about 15 million of it. 1 million went to a deferred payment into their 401k, which is indexing at 5, 6, 7% year on year. So at the age of, if you're 30 and you win that in 15 years, $1 million getting 5, 6% compounding interest, that's a chunk of change.
Pretty solid, yeah.
So who knows what the 25 million that Scheffler won?
Yeah, exactly how that works.
How it all works out, but I mean, good luck to him.
Yeah, we'll have to keep looking into
What
it.
did you think?
I always find it a strange end to the season just with the staggered start and score where, Scheffler comes in 10 under. So based on their FedEx Cup ranking, the very first ranked player is going to start at 10 under par. And then I believe the next is 8, and it keeps going down by 2 strokes until you just start at even. So it's been hard enough all season to catch Scottie Scheffler.
And I think the premise for that is because, again, haven't spoken to the PGA board, but I presume what they're trying to do is instead of having the Tour champion just win that week, and let's face it, any one of the 140 guys can win, they're trying to say, hey, no, we're going to reward consistent effort.
Yeah.
And so the Tour champion is the champion of that Tour that year. So I do love that they hedge their bet on the person who's been most consistent. I love that.
Yeah.
The downside of that, it's a little bit of a anticlimax.
Yeah, watching it's a little different. It kind of seems set up where, if you were first all season, then you should kind of be first in this tournament, which I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
But it does make it a little less exciting.
I didn't watch
in terms of scores. So I was watching, especially on Sunday, the final round, and I found it quite interesting just because there was a bit of adversity. So if anyone watching and saw hole 8, Scottie Scheffler was playing with Colin Morikawa, but just actually shanked one out of a bunker.
So he said a couple of times when the ball's above his feet, he's obviously and this is, I'd say absolutely bang on. When the ball's above your feet, the ball's closer to you. Now, he occasionally whips it on the inside. And therefore, if he whips the club on the inside, the face opens. And if you move the ball back because the ball's above your feet optically, so it's how your eye dominance is, he's just got the ball too far back relative to where he thinks it is. Therefore, the face is open. It's an eye dominance thing when the ball's above your feet because it's closer to you. So he said in his press conference he does this occasionally when the ball's above his feet.
Yeah.
So it's just an eye dominance thing. We do a ton of eye dominance work in here. I know that for a fact. All it will be is how he perceives where the ball is relative to his arc.
Yeah. So it's just bad timing in a tournament like that where he was I think 4 or 5 strokes ahead of Colin Morikawa at the time was the next closest person to him. But just cold shanked one.
And then
and you could see on his face after it happened, he was startled a bit. And you're kind of thinking, all right, are we going to see Scottie Scheffler falter or crumble under the pressure? And then, he kind of cleans up the hole. He bogeys.
He then goes birdie,
and then
birdie,
just
birdie.
birdie. I think then par, then eagle. And it was like, all right, he's not faced. Like, he just switched into this other gear, which was pretty cool to see.
I didn't watch it. I watched it when I was working on the Landy in the morning. He is so remarkably poised and calm. And if that's the spiritual thing, dude, I might become super religious because he's phenomenal.
Yeah, to bounce back from that with all the pressure was.
I mean, just to
amazing.
give you an idea, he's had 7 wins. Someone hasn't done that since Tiger 17 years ago. 7
Plus
wins on
gold
tour.
medal,
Olympic gold medal. Mm-hmm. Meredith and him welcomed their first little kid. And he's been with his partner, his wife, Meredith, since high school, which I think is kind of cool. What a year.
Yeah.
What a
unbelievable.
year. And just seems the most lovely, calm.
Yeah.
Just a good dude.
One little blip in jail, but...
one little blip in jail, yeah.
So he's some adversity.
Can you go back to Kentucky, or is he not allowed back in the state? Like, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, mate, power to you.
Well, so I kind of have a question. So he's been playing unbelievable golf consistently, but as we know, golf is a bit up and down.
Sure.
So when you were, playing professionally and when you were playing well, did you have any thought towards, all right, how do I keep this up? Not have a blip in how I'm feeling, how my
No, definitely not. No, it's 1 week at a time. I hope on a Monday morning, I hope the clubs are in the closet and he is just switching off.
Disconnecting.
Social media off. I hope he just goes down the rabbit hole of family and kids. He's got his sisters there and his mum and dad, and which seem to be a very, very tight unit.
Yeah.
Which gets back to the point. So it's interesting that the PGA Tour is shut off early, and then the LPGA, DP, LIV. I mean, who knows what's going on with LIV in terms of scheduling, but DP and LPGA have got another 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of golf
left. A lot of golf left.
So you can't keep up watching if you sorely miss it once PGA Tour is done.
So I would presume, having been there but nowhere near on the same level, I presume he's just shutting it down for a couple of weeks and then thinks about scheduling in a couple of weeks. If I'm his team, I'm just talking about eye dominance and where the ball is. So remember, your club hits the ground where your sternum is, and the low point for a right-handed golfer is left shoulder. So what that means, the club's on a declining angle and the face is pointing to the right, even if you're coming a little outside in. The club hits the turf, terrain, sand where your sternum is. The club then continues on a downward angle to left shoulder. So every lesson I ever give, it's all about 3 things. Face and path relationship, face less than path, and low point. And so I'd say when the ball's above his feet, because the ball is slightly physically closer to you, he's just got a little bit of an eye dominance, what we call proprioception issue. So I hope in 2 weeks he does nothing. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm sure they figure out what their objectives are, where he was. I mean, who knows where his weakness is, God. He played pretty well.
Yeah, it's true.
Whoever is his team, maybe it's him making the decisions. So it's going to be interesting to see what he works on in the off season. I still think that if you watch his footwork this week, it was a lot more aggressive sliding, which tends to suggest to me that his hips are a little tight this time of year.
Yeah.
So I'd be working on his internal, external rotation because of that. Right foot has to splay, suggest that his right external's pretty tight.
Yeah. Cool. And then kind of back to what I was talking about with the ups and downs of the season. We need to check in now that the season's ended on the 2 people we've been following, which is Will Zalatoris and Minwoo Lee.
So how did they do this year?
So Minwoo Lee finished 60th in the FedEx Cup.
Pretty solid. 110 or thereabouts exempt week to week. I know it's changing now with the university kids.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
So he certifies his card.
Just outside of the top half.
Yep, which is pretty solid. So he made it to, I believe, the BMW Championship.
Yeah.
Top 70 were in for that.
Pretty solid.
So quite good.
And then
Will Zalatoris, a bit better, 38th. He ended up in FedEx Cup points.
That's pretty solid.
So he didn't make it to East Lake, just missed out on that, but pretty good considering the injury past years and getting back into it this year. So.
Yeah. And just getting back on the 401k, how the money's broken down. I found it interesting that the guy who came first, Scottie Scheffler, got $1 million that was deferred payment. I think. Don't quote me on this. Anyone who knows this, send us a message. And so that was a 25th of obviously what he earned.
Yeah.
But then someone like, top 30, if they won a $300,000 bonus, then $200,000 went to the deferred payment. So there seemed to be an disproportionate deferred payment. It's not publicised how it is broken down. Anyway, enough about news from the fairways.
Yeah.
We had a good weekend. I had an absolute ball meeting Myles.
Yeah, so we had my dad come up. He's a golfer, lives on a course in Colorado.
Loves his golf. Right?
So we had him come in and Scottie kind of point him in the right direction. I did a few quick things with him, but it's awesome to kind of see where he's been, what you see in his swing and movements and get him on a path to.
So quick background. So Myles is a very, very sporty man.
Yeah, I always say he's lived 10 different lives. He's done some interesting stuff over the years.
He's 60, what's Myles?
77.
77?
Yeah.
Damn, he's in great shape.
Yeah,
wow, I thought he was high 60s.
Well, yeah. No.
Okay, so he's 77.
Yep.
He loves his golf, plays off about 18, but the problem is the old pro he's been working on back in Colorado gets him whipping it on the inside with a flat shoulder angle. So he's basically using his lower spine to rotate. And as we know, the lower spine can't turn. So Myles is using his spine this way, and we want to use his thoracic spine to rotate. So it all started with, hey, I play off 18. I'm super sporty. How can I be better? And then what I found, it was all physiological.
Yeah, so a lot of those tendencies to be, it's like shoulder a little lower on the left, right hip hiked up. I mean, it's a bit of a complicated scenario we can always go through.
Yeah.
But everything is encouraging him to spin flat on his backswing and then opening up the hips, leading with them on the downswing. He's a bit blocked out.
He's locked. So he basically couldn't internally rotate his left hip because as we worked on, tell us about what you found with his body. I mean, So our system here is when we do in our assessments is Sean and I do it together, and we generally, Sean puts them through all our clients. We try to treat Myles like a client.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And such shout out Myles. Like, it was great to meet you and get to know you a little bit. But Sean and I put them through a screen where it's heavily Sean, less about me. Then we come and hit some and we just tell people their math. And what we've found in here, and I think it's one of the best assessments in the country because it's extremely objective. As a golf pro who doesn't have a philosophy, all I do is teach math. And I've found that a lot of people don't want to know their math because they don't believe it. Yeah. Because the industry is so full of smoke and mirrors. And so we objectively see how people move. So Myles, we put him through a screen and his internal rotation was a little limited, but his extension, so the way his spine can tilt and rotate, that was the biggest thing that I couldn't work with.
Yeah, so, and I think the big struggle for him to just make this change is his spine and his hips really are kind of stuck moving together. We need them to start separating, both for rotation, but also this anterior posterior tilt. So we spent a lot of time just getting
let's slow down that a little bit.
Get into that.
So his pelvis, the bucket of water analogy?
Yeah, so we can just, in as simple as I can, try and break it down to you. So if these are his hips here, this is me standing, kind of holding my hips, if you can see me there. So these are my two hips left and right. Now, when you're golfing, when you're running, doing things athletically, your hips are almost always doing the opposite thing. They're counterbalancing each other. So quick tangent here. If you're someone who always does exercises, squats, deadlifts, things where your hips are moving together, doesn't apply a whole lot to athletic things, especially golf. So might want to look at that. But back to what I was talking about, Myles' hips right and left are both in very different positions.
Yeah.
So really, to make it as simple as possible, we take his left hip is more anterior tilted forward.
So bucket of water out the front.
Bucket of water forward on that left side more than the right. They're both a little inclined that way. But then he's also shifted to the right.
Big time.
So he kind of lives weight over on his right side. And then the left hip is pushed forward too. So you can think of like your belt buckle, he's a little turned to the right as well.
And so just with that pelvis, when that left hip is tilted anteriorly, so if our pelvis is neutral, now our pelvis is tilted anteriorly, the femoral head, this ball goes straight into the socket and it makes internal rotation very difficult, right?
Yeah. So you lose internal rotation primarily where you're bones of your hip and your femur, the leg bone, will run into each other when you try and internally rotate.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is he doesn't know that or ever feel that happen because his brain's aware, all right, this left hip doesn't have access to the right motion and the right muscles controlling it. So I'm going to find a workaround.
Yeah.
So your brain is super
and he
clever.
Is 77, he is strong as an ox.
So he's found a way to hit the golf ball and enjoy his golf, but his body is fighting him a little bit.
So because his left hip was tilted forward, he can't turn his hip. As a right-handed golfer, he has to use his torso through impact.
Yep.
So mathematically, his face is moving left all the time. So what he's learned to do is whip the club so far on the inside and open that face that when he spins his thoracic spine, right open face going back, thoracic spine moves the face left, left plus right equals pretty straight, but he is going to destroy. In fact, it destroys his lower back.
Yeah.
It surprises me he doesn't get more back pain after his golf.
He's had it occasionally, but the more he plays, good chance that goes up.
So what we did was we put him through the screen. When we get someone to do an overhead deep squat, keeping their arms above the head, it tells me as a golf pro, he was shifting straight out of that left hip. And I'm like, buddy, if you do a deep overhead squat shifting right, we know he's going to hang back and flip it all day long. Doesn't matter whether you're Scottie Scheffler or Myles Joyce. So then we just sent him back to your room and you kind of worked on him for about 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah,
and
spend a little time
I was watching things. He was on the bed, and despite his best effort, it took us 20 minutes to explain to get his pelvis tucked under neutral.
Yeah. And so I think his body's just lived hips forward, lumbar spine and extension, which pushes the ribs up. Getting out of that, like you get so conditioned to your brain just thinks this is our new normal, this is our baseline, but he's actually really far on one end of the spectrum in terms of his posture.
Yeah.
So getting him going the other way at first, it's like, well, I don't move that way.
Yeah. It took about 20 minutes for his brain to actually do it. It was a classic. So the point we're trying to make, if you love your golf, it is impossible to improve your golf game unless you look at your physiology. Otherwise, you're just doing a Band-Aid cure. So then we spent, 25, 30 minutes getting Myles back to neutral. Within 3 swings, he was coming from the inside 5, 6 degrees. And I think he lived outside 8 to 10 degrees for the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah. So
it took us 3 or 4 swings to get him inside 5, 6.
Get the body out of the way. You direct him in the right movement pattern and we're flying. So it's funny, when we were in here, we were talking about, I'm going to be in Ireland next year with my family. We're going to go back and see where my grandparents grew up and sneak a bunch of golf in too. But I was talking to him about just, after we were in there yesterday, and when we're in those windy links courses, like you don't want to be playing it out in open face, fade. The wind's just going to eat the ball up. So now he can get that into out, push draw, if he so chooses.
Yeah, the point is there's no right answer, but what we do better than most is explain in our terms mathematically, which means without objective or philosophy, where you live. And Myles, it was all about working with someone like you. It happened to be his son. But it really was to get golf lessons, and he's had quite a few. It's impossible to improve Myles until you unlock him.
Yeah.
Get his pelvis back to neutral.
And because he could conceptually think, okay, I want to make, steeper turn with my shoulders, posterior tilt, open up the hips more. But if you physically can't do it, then there's a mismatch there. But I always find it fascinating because, as we said, we try and keep things as objective as possible.
Totally objective.
So our opinion is not what's making the decisions. What we find dictates that. But when you put people through some movements, you start seeing what's going on. It's pretty clear how they're going to swing a golf club.
Yeah.
Now, I love to wait and see until they actually swing a golf club what they do. But certain things they can't do, so they're going to have to find a workaround, and there's only so many options. And
again, mathematically, so Myles, because he was tilted up, he rotated flat. Because he rotated flat, his face open. Because his face open, he had to spin his torso. Now, what the golf pro's done is given him a very whippy golf club. So as his torso's spinning left, the face is opening, and he had offset golf clubs. So the first thing we did was put him into stiff, super light, and non-offset.
Yeah.
And so now he's looking down at a club going, wow, shit, this looks different. And so if he spins his torso with a non-offset golf club, that ball's going to move left. So which gets back to the whole ethos of why we built swing. We built swing to be objective. How do they move? Movement trumps motion in golf. what their equipment or how their equipment interacts with their face and path is so important. 95% of the clubs on the market are offset, and they're progressively offset. So 7, 8, 9 irons are pretty neutral. And then as the club gets longer, the face offsets. So as I said, we're hopefully going to launch our clubs for this Christmas. They will be non-offset. It is so important. Mm-hmm. So what we've got to do is we're trying to reset the industry from Swing's whole ethos is to be pragmatic and mathematical because it's objective. So let's be honest. He's been playing the same way for 30 years. Objectively, mentally, he gets it straight away. Yeah. But it is going to take some time.
Yeah, so he has to completely rewire how he's swinging a golf club. But I told him, now you've got, you're on the right path, but you just need lots of reps. So stick with the same drill or two.
So we've got one drill in here that's got noodles to get people to get a little bit of width going back. So we like to see the club, if 12 o'clock is our target, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, most golfers, I'd say 80 to 90% of males, whip the club on the inside like a Justin Thomas fan the club open. Now the face is open to the body. And what we're doing with Myles and everyone in here is we keep the club going back at 6 o'clock straight back, feeling like the face feels closed, but it's actually square to the body. Mm-hmm. He can do that drill up in Colorado, but it is going to take some time.
Yeah. So it'll take some time to get
Myles,
used to.
Be patient.
Stay the course, yeah, but he's itching to practice. He flew back yesterday. Said he has a busy day today, and then he's going to the driving range after.
So is he playing golf for months? When does it get cold up there?
So Colorado's interesting. If there's no snow on the ground, you can play year-round. There can be some cold rounds, but even in the middle of winter, you'll get the occasional 60-degree sunny day. And if there's not, snow all over the course, hasn't snowed recently, you can get out and play. Yeah, so we got to get him a heated vest for his thoracic spine. Yeah, he's got one.
His T-spine was, because his chest was up, he was so thoracically tight.
Yeah, exactly. So we get the hips in the right place, then he's got a chance to use his spine
Myles, you must do your exercises that son told you. You got to stick to the course. See, look, what we find in here is so many people are fickle and flaky about staying the course. Golf is fundamentally simple. Take the club back square on the way back to keep the face nice and quiet. We need the face to be around 0 to 8 degrees at impact. If the face needs to be less than path is around 7 to 10 degrees. The more you swing like Justin Thomas, the more the gate opens 90 degrees. You've got to get that face back to within 0 and 8 degrees within a quarter of a second. Mm-hmm. So we believe that, the club should be swung vertically, face less than path, and rip it.
Yeah, less manipulation, just swing hard.
So as your season winds down, the club champs have all been played pre-Labor Day. Come to group training with us. We're opening group training now to members, non-members, and our job in here is to explain mathematically and objectively who you are.
So if you're in the New York City area, please reach out. We'd love to have you and get you going in the right direction. If you start working on your game now, you can be in a much better place come not that we ever say on-off season.
No, there's
once
no
the spring rolls around and everyone's starting to think golf, there's plenty of time to make the changes and actually make the progress you seek. So,
beauty golfers, look, remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your game off course.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. We'll keep up bringing you some good information and on the way to better golf. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.